Welcome everybody to AARP Vermont's webinar on age-friendly home design for homeowners. And I'm joined today by Richard Duncan and Hannah Peel from Universal Design Institute.
Can you move your phone, please?
Okay. And we will be talking about a number of important pieces around how to design your home so that you can successfully age in place in your home. So Richard Duncan is the executive director for the Universal Design Institute and is a leading expert on universal housing. And he will be able to share a number of ways that you can go about tackling these issues in your home. And also he'll be sharing the top 10 age-friendly features for a home and providing a number of resources and information that you can use to make sure that your home is safer, more age-friendly, and easier to get around so that you can support some of your basic needs as you age. We will have time for Q&A after Richard's presentation. But if questions come up as you're listening to the presentation, feel free to put anything in the chat. If you hover on the bottom of your screen, you'll see a chat feature that you can open up and you can go ahead and type any question that you have in there. I'd also welcome folks to open up the chat when you click on the chat, and you can put your name and the town that you're from in Vermont. And also, if you'd be willing to share any of the issues in your home that you'd love to address, whether that's the entrance, the bathroom, hallways, storage issues. We'd love to hear what you're most interested in addressing in your home to make it more age-friendly. So if you could go ahead and open up the chat, put in your name, your town, and any questions or areas of your house that you're most interested in addressing today. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Richard. And like I said, we will have time for some Q&A at about 10:45. We'll then transition to Q&A. Richard, welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. It's great to be talking to folks from Vermont and maybe elsewhere. We're speaking to you from Asheville, North Carolina. And I wish I could say that behind me was my office window view, but it is not. But it is a view that is probably not unfamiliar to folks living in the mountains of Vermont. We have our mountains that we like so much. In any event, it's not far, so I'm able to enjoy this view more than occasionally. Yeah, so today we'll talk about top 10 simple home safety changes. The Institute, there's two institutes that I had, the Better Living Design Institute and the Universal Design Institute. Both of them have a lot to do with housing and increasingly housing for older adults. And we are a national nonprofit, even though we're located out here in the beautiful Western North Carolina region. And we're really happy to be working with AARP Vermont in bringing this to you. This is my top 10 simple home safety changes. So it's particularly appropriate if you're thinking about remodeling, but I think you'll see that a lot of these ideas might be applicable to a new home situation or even a really major remodel as well. But this is just, skimming the surface in terms of what all the range of things are. So we'll get into this, and we're happy to take your questions later on. So we have kind of a fairly non-controversial opening goal that we think most older adults probably share, is the ability to live in one's own home and community safely, independently, and comfortably, regardless of age, income, or ability level. No big deal. We've emphasized community there because while everything does begin at home, as we say, your neighborhood characteristics matter and your community characteristics matter. And I know that AARP Vermont is really working hard in all these areas. So we're happy to be able to add this to the list of things that they're being active about. We hear a lot about lifestyle, having an appropriate lifestyle that helps support us as we grow older. This guy seems to be hitting it very hard. He's in the gym, and you may not be needing to do that. And lifestyle is not our topic today, but certainly maintaining that would be a good idea. But even this guy, regardless of what he does, will eventually need some changes in his house. So it really doesn't matter. We're all going to be facing these at some point. So where do we live? Older adults live everywhere. We know that the demographic in Vermont, as well as the rest of the country, is growing, and the number of us in our over 65 age group won't level off even for another 40 years. So there's a lot of us. We live all over the place. Maybe it's a small single family wood frame house. Maybe it's only 1 story tall. You may have brick ranches in Vermont. We have a ton of them in the South and the Midwest. A lot of us live in 2-story homes, whether it's a single family detached or a duplex, or like in this picture, a triplex, which are more affordable housing options. Or if you're unfortunate as an older adult, you may be living in these increasingly popular multi-story small footprint townhomes, which have lots of problems, some of which we'll touch on going forward. So we live all over, and we live in all kinds of family groupings. It may be a single adult, maybe it's 3 unrelated people, maybe you're house sharing, which I think is a terrific idea. A lot of folks increasingly, it might be an older couple. And one of the issues we have with the homes that we live in is that we often have one older individual helping another older individual with daily tasks, which kind of doubles the challenges, but also doubles the benefit if we're thinking about making positive changes. Or it might even be a multi-generational family. We love multi-generational family living. It has lots of positive benefits for everybody. I know that AARP is all about that as well. Or you might be, a family of beautiful models that have been hired to have a picture taken. Each of them in their own family units, we're sure has some aging issues going on. Or even these guys, all in their late 70s, except for poor Charlie Watts at the end, who has unfortunately passed away. And if you don't know who these people are, we'll reveal the big reveal at the end. And I also have a separate webinar that we can do sometime called What 60s and 70s Rockers Look Like Now for folks. It's a kind of a humorous run through that. Anyway, back to serious things. So the problem is that all the houses I showed you, with very few exceptions, don't really support us in our aging lives. And they're really not helping us maintain that goal of being able to live independently and safely, or as independently as we want to. So that's the underwriting issue that we've got. And Vermont is no exception, nor is Burlington. An additional problem is that as older adults, we tend not to do much advanced planning. I think the people attending today may be exceptions to that rule, which is terrific. We tend to put it off and say that we'll do something when the time comes or when we need it. Generally, we don't do much. So advanced planning is key, and I applaud you for attending and kind of going down that road with us. And if you do advanced planning, and maybe you look around for other options in new construction, not that many new homes are built with age-friendly features in them. So that's another issue. What can you do? And I'm happy the AARP is working on this nationally. And even if we do remodeling as an older adult, not enough of us are building in age-friendly features to major remodeling projects as they might. Clearly, a lot more of that is happening these days than 10 or 20 years ago, but we're not nearly catching up to kind of the need that's out there. So we're hoping that some of these things change, and certainly in your lives going forward. So what are some of the problem areas? We'll just go through a few of them quickly and then go into our top 10 solutions. Stairs are usually an issue, whether they're inside or outside at some point or other. Even if you're ambulatory like this, probably this woman is using her walker, at some point they become dangerous. In fact, stairs are the most dangerous part of practically any home that we live in. And long before she started using her walker, we know that whether it was evidenced by a cane or something else, she was having perhaps balance issues on stairs. And now she has to leave her walker at the bottom of the stairs. She has that piece of equipment to deal with. So stairs are a problem. This has one handrail. A lot of stairs, particularly outside, don't have any handrails. And we'll talk about stairs in a couple of minutes. Bathrooms are kind of the number 2 area of homes that cause problems. And this is a very standard bathroom configuration: 3-fixture bath, tub or shower at the end, toilet, vanity. Sometimes they're in different locations. If it comes to the point where you're using a wheelchair, you can see here graphically what a wretched space this is to use. There's really no maneuvering room at all. You're really in a bad way with this. But even long before that, you don't have to be using a wheelchair to have the bathroom like that look bad. Here's graphic showing we have a bathroom just like this in our house. You're wedged between the toilet and the tub. You're leaning over. Your balance is being thrown off. You may have reach limitations. All those things are problems for us at various points during our lives. And certainly as we grow older, it becomes more of an issue. So bathrooms are an issue. We'll talk about that. Lighting as well. All of us need more lighting now than we did when we were younger. I think I've read in some places that it's double the amount of light that we used to have to be able to see adequately. This is maybe how our houses are actually lit, to our eyes anyway, and we need to be conscious of fixing that. So we'll talk about lighting going forward. Kitchens is another key area, and certainly falls in kitchens and storage in kitchens becomes a big deal. If any of you are doing this kind of a maneuver with standing up on a chair with wheels, I don't do that. My mom had a great fall in her kitchen that she survived, thankfully, but she looked like she'd gone around with Mike Tyson back in the day. Not a good place to fall because of hard surfaces. And even if you have stools, a lot of us use these inadequate stools that are tip prone. We'll talk about what to do about that as well. So finally, we talked about the importance of home design a little bit, and we'll cover some of these issues as we go forward with the rest of our presentation. There's the top 10 list. I'm actually cheating a little bit. It's actually more like a top 15 list. And while a lot of the issues we talk about have simple responses, some of them, of course, will have more complicated ones, and you can see kind of which ones might be more achievable for you. And please, keep your questions, add your questions to the chat, or save them for the end if you've got other issues that you have that we don't cover. And at the end, we'll talk about the resources. Happily, there's lots of them that are available to help. And of course, the questions. So our options can remain in the home we're in now, which is great, and modify. That's primarily what we're looking at today. Move. And if you're lucky enough to find a house that might be easier to modify, and that's a topic we cover separately, you'll probably be faced with improving that, unless you're really lucky and find a place or can build a place that's got age-friendly features built in. And again, yeah, if you're really lucky, you might be able to build something new and design it from scratch. So we're all about today modifying existing homes, whether it's the one you're in now, or maybe the one that you might be moving to that's easier to modify than the home that you're in. So we'll start with kitchen storage, number 10. We just talked about that. And this is one of my favorite traditional kitchen images. I wish that I had a bold enough palette that I could select colors like this and get away with it. I just love the yellow and the turquoise. But this is an older kitchen, standard kitchen that a lot of us may look like in many respects. Wall cabinets up above, base cabinets that have primarily doors in the bottom. I love the old stove that's in there. That's kind of an anthropological research. I'd love to look at that for further. And they've also got one more thing to keep in mind. They've got a microwave on the counter, and I'll go sideways for a second just to talk about that, because that's a place that may be best for us to have our microwave in the future. Too many kitchens have their microwaves over the stove, and as a lot of us, all of us, are getting shorter over time, and maybe our strength and reach limitations are coming into effect now. Having a microwave located over the stove, not such a good idea for a lot of us. So really need to think about, along with the other things we're talking about today, is maybe relocating that. There's a lot more to say about that. You could have under counter microwaves, wall mounted microwaves at a lower level, excuse me, or as I say, countertop. We could talk about that more in a different session. But back to this. So there's our microwave on the countertop. Might be a good place, as it turns out, for a lot of us to have microwaves going forward, because it's easy to reach. But if you're going to be maintaining storage that it's high, and that's the real danger area, having the right kind of stool will be helpful. So a stool that has a tall handle, you can use that to carry it around, not having to bend so far, or having the handle so you can grab onto it to be secure as you're standing up and down. Either a single handle or double handle model will work, as well as having adjustable height models, so you can adjust it for your needs to make a big difference. So think about that if you haven't already done that. We have 2 of these reachers in our house. I would not use it to take a jar of olive oil down off the shelf. This lady's making that choice. I would do something that may be a little bit safer, but certainly for some items where you can't move the storage or alter it, that's a great thing. And a lot of you may have this already in your house. Otherwise, If you really don't have other storage options, and maybe you're shorter, maybe you operate from a seated position, I don't know, you can get these wall cabinet inserts. You take out the shelves, largely you put this device in there. It has a couple of shelves on it. You can pull it down, so it pulls it to a lower level. These are a few $100s, so they're not really cheap, but if you have no other options, you can think about this. You can easily Google these online and find 2 or 3 different manufacturers of this. It's probably DIY for some of you who are handy. For others, you can get a handyman to do that. Our gold standard really for storage in kitchens is the pantry style storage. And this is a really low end, inexpensive model. And there's many more models you can get. But it locates storage in a whole various reach ranges. You can get ones that go far higher than this. They're adjustable height shelves. It brings the storage to you both visually and physically. So they solve a lot of problems that these high storage cabinets or even low storage cabinet doors offer. And so we recommend, if you're thinking of renovation, certainly to include things like this in there. Another option, if you're doing big renovations of kitchens, is base cabinets that have drawer units. We'll show you that in a minute. So that's our kitchen storage and our microwave conversation. Number 9 is kitchen. We're staying in the kitchen work surfaces. So here's a photograph that shows, again, a kitchen with a lot of drawer-based cabinets. That's a thing to think about. But it also has this, which is a lowered work surface. Lots of kitchens have lowered work surfaces these days, not so much in the olden days for lots of other purposes. But we know that even if you're ambulatory, maybe you can't stand for as long as you used to, and being able to sit for a while and still conduct some kitchen activities with a family, with the grandkids. I'm not sure I'd have them playing in my kitchen while I was cooking, but in any event, you can get this in a variety of different configurations and locations. Another one is, again, at the end of a cabinet run, as you see here, it could even be foldable. It could fold down when you don't need it, fold up when you do need it. It offers some convenience for a lot of folks who, again, can't stand for as long as they used to, or maybe you're a wheelchair user, you still want to be able to have a lowered work surface where you can conduct some of the activities that have meaning for you in the kitchen. This photograph also shows, I don't have an arrow for it, but in the back you see there's a under counter mounted dishwasher, which is an alternative, especially for small households. Doesn't take up as much space, and you don't have to bend over so far. We talk a lot in storage about reaching up high. It's also reaching down low. That's where these drawer base cabinets also come into play. Or these used to be popular. They may find a resurgence now, is pull-out cutting boards. You can locate these at any drawer level, so it could be the top drawer or the lower down drawer. Again, to create a portable work surface, you can pull that thing out and clean it off and then put it back on. Or you could even pull out maybe the lower drawer, the middle drawer in this picture here, and put a cutting board on top of that and have it kind of suffice as a work surface temporarily for someone. So work surfaces, you can do a lot. Some of the more major reconstruction areas and some of the more minor add-on variety as well. Right, now we're moving into the bathroom, right? One of these other areas that matters a lot. Toilet height. A lot of conversation about toilet height these days. So this is one style of these increasingly popular so-called comfort height toilets. They're higher than usual. Their usual toilets are 15 to 16 inches. These are 17 to 19 inches high. And they offer some advantages because you don't have so far to sit down when you get on the toilet. You don't have so far to get up when you get off the toilet. People are referring to them now as, the new universally designed toilet for everybody. And I would suggest you not so fast with that, because in fact, for a lot of us, like my mom, for example, who was short, the high toilet would have been impossible for her. Her feet would have dangled off the floor, and it would have been a real challenge for her. So if possible, and maybe you've tried one of these out and you want to have this in your house, maybe if you have more than one bathroom has the high toilet, and another bathroom has the standard high toilet. That's easier to use. So this is one of the, again, increasingly popular stools you can get to raise our feet up and our knees up to make moving our bowels easier in the bathroom. They're great. I would hate to see these used in conjunction with comfort height toilets that for climbing up and down purposes. That's the last thing you want to do in a bathroom, is add an element of needing to use a stool that might be tippy if you're standing on it. They come in different sizes. We got the wrong size for our house. The 9-inch size turns out to be too high for the standard height toilet. So a 7 or 8 inch is what we should have done. So keep that in mind. The 9-inch may be fine for a comfort height toilet to use for that. But please don't think of these as stools to climb up and down off the toilet on. We'll talk more about bars later on, but while we're talking about toilets, I thought I should really show you this, because while you can have rear mounted bars behind the toilet, sidewall mounted bars next to the toilet, for a lot of us at some point, particularly while we're still ambulatory, can stand and pivot, bars in this location close to our bodies mounted on either side of the toilet and with projections that project out are really a much better idea for having a secure way to get up and down off of a toilet compared to wall-mounted bars or bars mounted behind the toilet. This is the kind of thing we'd recommend. There's a million varieties of these out there. This is adjustable height, of course, and it has these feet that go down to the floor that add some stability to this. Okay, number 7, we mentioned lighting before. And here's our follow-on lighting picture. We love layered lighting, right? So you see pendant lighting here. We hope there's lighting in the ceiling. We hope that there's also task lighting around. Terrific thing, but you have to have an adequate amount of lumens. And I think all of us today are probably moving in the LED lighting direction. Maybe like a lot of your houses, my house has multi-generations of lighting. We have some still incandescent lights hanging on. We have the compact fluorescent lights that we thought was going to be the answer to our energy dreams. And then now we have LEDs. And so we're slowly doing this conversion over time. So eventually all of our lighting, I'm sure, will be LED lights going forward. And that's terrific. We like them. We like the energy savings, and we like the opportunities they have for adding additional lighting. And lumens is really the thing today. That's much more complicated lighting situation than it used to be in the old days. It was all wattage, right? 60 watt, 75 watt, 100 watt. These days, that kind of wattage, you could light up the moon with a 60 watt LED bulb. We don't need those. So we judge light intensity by lumens. So that's an 800 lumen. 75 watt is 1100 lumens. I think that's becoming the standard. The 60 watt used to be the workhorse of our home lighting in the olden days. Now I think we're moving towards the 75 watt equivalent, not 800 lumens, but 1100 lumens. More and more in our house, we're taking out those bulbs that are lower lumen levels and replacing them with bulbs that are higher lumen levels because we need the extra lighting to make a difference. And we're even using more 100 watt equivalent, which is around 1600 lumens in some places, maybe in overhead light kind of situations, to provide the illumination that we need to feel safe moving around our house. And we think that everyone should really be having a nightlight of some configuration, right? This is the old-fashioned kind. On at night, off in the morning, cheap, still works well if you like to do that. There are a variety of night lights that are out there now. A lot of them are light sensitive, so that even in darkened hallways, they'll illuminate the hallway if you don't turn the light on, and certainly at night, they'll turn on for that. I'm looking for the perfect, and here's another variety, same kind of idea, the perfect night light that's motion detecting. We have one of these in our hallway, but has low enough illumination levels that it's appropriate for use in my bedroom. So if you know the perfect model, let me know, because we're still searching for this, because you don't want to have a spotlight in the bedroom at night or the bathroom. You want to have something that's far lower lighting, just so you can see that there's nothing on the floor that's going to trip you. And you can do hardwired as well as plug-in versions if you're doing some wiring in your house. All right, so that's some on lighting. Now we'll talk about kitchen lighting specifically. We understand that most of our homes are illuminated poorly. And certainly with our aging eyes, that's never been more true. Kitchens, likewise. The kitchen that we moved into had terrible lighting. We added what they have in this picture also. This is another image. So we see here the under cabinet lighting, which you can install, that adds a terrific amount of task lighting to that countertop. It makes a huge difference. I think I've got a picture here to show you kind of what that difference looks like. This is the before picture in my kitchen, and this is the after picture. And whatever you think about the quality of the light, it's undeniably more of it. And this is what we added. It's kind of a DIY. So mount, and there's a million varieties. This is just one. Mount it towards the front of the cabinet, not the back. So you're eliminating as much as possible, casting shadows on the work surface that you're on. And it makes a huge difference. I really heartily recommend this for folks in kitchens, in addition to changing the lumen levels and the lighting that you already have, right? Change those bulbs out. Right, number 5, stair safety. We showed the picture before. I understand you've got snow in Vermont occasionally. It makes both pathway safety as well as stair safety even more of an issue. And here you've got the classic circumstance in a lot of people's outdoor stairs, whether it's attached to a deck or a porch or not, no handrails at all, or inadequate handrails. So to go back to my earlier comment, you really need to have handrails on outside stairs, as well as to think about winter maintenance. So here's our single rail before. Makes a difference, but they really need handrails on both sides of the stairs, so they're both coming up and going down. Whether or not you've got, one good side or the other good side, you have something secure to hang on to. And this is kind of our rear deck staircase hall of shame here, because it's a horrible staircase, and I'll point out a couple of the issues. If your staircase looks like this, please get a change. So first of all, it has open risers. You don't want to have open risers on stairs. That space there, right? Catch toes on that, catch cane tips on that. Not a good idea. It also has uneven risers. So you see the bottom step, it's what, 2 inches, then you have 6 inches. Is it 7 at the top step? Who knows? It's all uneven, very dangerous, doesn't work well. And they don't have handrails on either side. They have guardrails on either side. Guardrails masquerading as handrails. Those are not good things to be gripping on when you're relying on something like that to get up and down stairs safely. Now, this is from a demonstration house we did. It happened to be in New Jersey, in Atlantic City a few years ago. And we kind of went to the max on this. But we have the solid risers, which works well. We love this handrail, because not only is it on both sides, not only is it round, the right shape, but it also extends beyond the bottom tread of the stairs, so that if you've got balance issues, you can descend the stair, keep grabbing onto that handrail, and then start walking. And you can do this at the top or bottom if you have space. One thing I would change on this is the color of the handrail. It's white on white, right? White on a white balustrade. Better if it's a contrasting color so that it stands out against the background. So if you're grabbing it in a hurry, you have an easier time seeing it. Okay, here's a close-up of our no handrail hall of shame. And really what you need to be looking for is an inboard mounted handrail on both sides of the stairs, shaped like a hand, a round or something like this, or at least a rounded edge. This is a project that we did recently, not too long ago, where we had not a terrible handrail going down the stairs, but bad enough so it really didn't provide adequate amount of assistance to the person who was elderly and had some balance and strength issues. We recommended lots of different things. They decided to do this. So they brought the handrails, they added handrails and brought them well inboard from where the existing one was. And the idea for them, I think, was that she could grab both handrails when ascending or descending. And the cautionary note here is that if you're having lots of trouble using stairs, and all the things we recommend here will help you survive longer and more safely, there's probably other things happening as well. You may have issues in the bathroom. So think more broadly than just the staircase. And think also what happens if things get worse. What happens if you do begin to use a piece of equipment that really taking up and down the stairs is a problem. And those really should prompt some more kind of comprehensive thinking. You can add an exterior seat lift. You can add an interior seat lift and interior stairs. It'll get you up and down. Again, that'll keep you safe for longer. You probably should be thinking about, if you need things like this, other things within the home. And of course, these other housing options. It may be that at some point you do as much as you can. You need to be thinking about some other location that might be safer without having to require the use of some electronics or seat lifts. Or, this is, an easy place to put a ramp, not that high a rise. And it's a fairly well constructed ramp, but it doesn't have a handrail on it. That's great. I know a lot of places, the ramps would be 80 or 100 feet long, and that's a real constraint. That's part of what we do in our work, is help people figure out those problems about what they can do getting in and out. So that might be another issue. Our gold standard here is, of course, is houses that are built or remodeled in ways that have, step-free routes of travel without having to use a ramp. In this case, it also has a set of stairs, no handrails on it, of course, but it does have a step-free route of travel that travels from the right to the left and around those bushes and up to the porch, which is level with the first floor and which has a roof overhang. Right, moving on, bath bars. I told you we'd talk more about bars. And one of the problems we have with adding grab bars to our house is that a lot of us have in our mind maybe old-fashioned bars, maybe the kind of bars you see in restaurants around town. And who wants a bar that looks like that, right? Nobody. So the good news is that there's lots of different finishes and color choices in grab bars today. They are, of course, more expensive than the cheapest grab bar that you find in those public settings. But my sense is that these are not budget-busting bars. That if this line item will be a tiny fraction of what you may be otherwise thinking about spending if you're modifying your house. So you know that you can get these, and it's easy to Google. The location of them matters a great deal. So you don't want to be casual about that. You also want to make sure you're adding them securely. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But you have to be really careful about where you add a bar and who it's being added for. And so in some cases, you have access to an occupational therapist who can help you kind of figure that out, or maybe a PT. That's a good idea. This is a bathroom that we helped with, a shower rather. It's a relatively small shower, and they put bars in very specific locations. One bar at the entry to the shower, which is a great place to have one, because getting in and out of the shower or tub is one of the key fall risk areas. They decided to put a horizontal bar in the back wall, as you see, and a vertical bar also near the shower head, and they attached a hands-free, a handheld shower to that vertical bar on the wet wall of the shower, so that it would be sturdy and wouldn't fall if they happened to grab it if they slipped. And also in the picture is this bench. We love having benches in showers. We love even more folding benches. They get out of the way when you don't need them, but you can easily fold them down when you do need them. So here, this is when I'm getting beyond my top 10 list, right? This is going to like make top 15. Also, we got to mention this. You need to have some sturdy non-slip mat outside the tub or shower, rubber back or something like that, so it's not going to slip. You need some place where your wet feet can be placed so that it's not going to be slipping. And you need to think about something maybe inside tubs or showers that's slip resistant. This mat you see here, the blue one, is okay. It's not perfect. It does not do a good job at resisting one of the two motions our feet have when entering or exiting bathtubs or showers, which is horizontal. Does a good job with the vertical. It's cushiony. We like it. I like these kinds of mats because I don't like standing on hard surfaces any longer. But it doesn't do such a good job if you got a lot of horizontal motion. So you may need to be thinking about adhesive applications to the bottom of tubs, or we even did something where I applied a liquid to the bottom of our shower, which actually is holding up pretty well. I don't know if I have that listed in our resources, so people can contact me. I can give you that information. Okay, now we're to handholds in showers as a precursor or an add-on to grab bars, which we know we need to be specifically located. Handholds you can put anywhere, and they offer this kind of incidental assistance because in all cases they're built into things you already use, but they're very sturdily mounted, so you don't have to worry about them ripping out of the wall like a typical towel bar, for instance. So here's a soap dish, very sturdy. You can put that in the shower on a wall and it'll help you balance if you need that. You can even get them built into, in a variety of configurations and designs, into toilet paper dispensers. Or here's a towel bar, right? With the towel part underneath and the handhold on top. Does a very good job. I decided to test the strength of these things. I did a DIY in one of our bathrooms. This is actually installed without being locked into the studs. And my experimental results are, I'm not quite sure I'd rely on that on a daily basis if I was putting a lot of weight on that bar, but it's pretty sturdy even so. So the manufacturer is trying to move away from the necessity for, locking into the studs or for blocking it. And the results, the reviews I have are mixed as to how secure those are. I would never do this for a grab bar. I would only do this for one of these handholds. Okay, getting down to the bottom here. Excitement's building. Door width, a big deal. A lot of our homes have very narrow doors. And for a lot of us, whether we have a piece of equipment or not, it's a problem. This doorway, 22 inches wide. A lot of bathrooms have these incredibly narrow doors. What are we looking for door width? 32 inches of clear opening. So you can see how far off this bathroom is. We have no notions that this bathroom can be modified easily to accommodate someone. So we're not even thinking about it. But in another bathroom in our home, actually, with a similar size door, we widened it. We got an extra 5+ inches by taking the old door out, widening the opening, speccing a new door in. We also reversed the door swing, something else, out of the bathroom so that the swing of the doors goes into the bedroom and doesn't take up that critical space inside the bathroom, which we're going to need at some point for maneuvering around. And we got an extra 5 inches. It still is just 30 inches wide, which isn't terrible, I've discovered. So if you can get at least 30 inches of clear opening with that's great. 32 is way better. And that's as contrast to what a lot of people are saying. No, you got to go 36 inches wide. Well, if you can do that, fine. I think it looks a little institutional as a door width, but 32 inches would be a preferred width if you can get that. We couldn't get that out of this because of the situation around that doorway, but we got a lot better off. So I feel good about that. Or if you just have a couple of inches that you need out of your doorway, maybe it's already 30 inches, you need 32. You can get something called a swing clear hinge. Easy to Google, $50 a pair. And they add actually 1 or 2 inches of door width without having to change anything besides the hinges. And this shows you kind of graphically, this is the before picture, shows the door protruding into the door opening, taking up some critical space, and what it looks like afterwards with the swing clear hinges installed. So think about that if you've got just a couple inches that matter. Decluttering, there's lots of reasons to declutter, and safety is certainly one of them. This is a photograph that I got off of a site that we use. It's surely not, our house is not this bad. I'm sure your house, I hope it isn't in this bad. This looks like it's a 20-something's bedroom where it has lots of stuff in there. And I saw this in the picture. I thought, what does he have? His riding mower battery is in his bedroom as well. It turns out that that's a little speaker for the guitar you see on the left over there. So I was comforted by you didn't at least have that. But certainly this is just a reminder that this is the easiest of all things to do in terms of safety, is make sure that you clean up after yourselves and don't have cords running across any part of the floor that you have to travel over like this person has. So reminder, do this, usually zero cost unless you're got a lot more clutter than maybe you need to have anyway. The other thing that's really a problem here, which is really a segue into my next and last #1 topic, is the floor here looks like it's polished stone. Always a bad idea. Not only is it extremely hard if you fall.
Yes, but I don't have the camera nor the speaker on. It's a AARP, safely remodeling your home or whatever. And
Thank
it's tips on
you for
things
going
to
on
do.
mute. Thank you
Yeah,
for
we're
going
gonna
on
just ask whoever's speaking to go ahead and mute, please.
All right, we're going to bring it home now. So we don't like stone floors. We don't like polished anything floors like this because the slip potential is so much greater with these. What do we recommend? Well, there's a lot of issues with flooring, and there's no one flooring choice that's going to be best for everybody. And there's lots of challenges. So let's look at this for a couple of minutes before we wind up. Wall-to-wall is what a lot of people really like in homes. We made a very considered choice in our house where we have most of it solid surface flooring. In the 2 bedrooms, we have wall-to-wall carpeting, softer on our feet in the morning and in the evening. We can walk around with bare feet without worrying about it. The one big drawback to wall-to-wall carpeting, well, 2 of them potentially, is one is indoor air quality. It's very hard to keep wall-to-wall carpeting as clean and dust-free and microbe-free as we'd like. So particular attention to keeping your carpet clean is a great idea if you're going to do this. The other thing is if you go crazy and get carpeting that's way too thick with padding that's way too thick, which probably seems like a good idea, it actually isn't a good idea. You need to think about carpeting that's a loop pile, like a Berber carpet type, with a relatively thin, firm padding, which I'm sure is going to be soft enough for a lot of us, and maybe limit it to certain areas of the house as opposed to everywhere. That's my personal preferences and recommendations. You don't have to eliminate it, but I mean, use it in a very considered way. What we know is a problem is too thick area rugs. Area rugs in general, when you've got solid surface flooring everywhere, you really feel the need, as we did, to add something to break up the color, to break up the sound. You don't want to have this echoic thing feeling like it's a public building, but avoid carpeting that looks like that because the trip hazards are just huge. This is closer, but not perfect. This bound edge carpeting tends to be fairly inexpensive, not a high trip hazard, but it still has some. And what can happen is the edges can peel up. And with any carpeting, this is true. It's particularly true with bound edge carpeting. And you can fix this, right? It requires some maintenance over time, but you can get all kinds of 2-sided carpet tape you can cut, put on the floor. I recommend a lot bigger piece than that to get that corner tucked down that I just showed you, and then put the carpet back on. This is what it looks like after you've taken the adhesive off one side or the covering. And it may not be obvious, but there's no lift on that edge the way there was in the prior photo. So I would recommend, if you've got area rugs and you don't want to get rid of them, get area rugs that are very low profile, preferably heavy, and then use this to keep the edges from providing trip hazards. Also, this is an even better rug because this is a very low profile without a bound edge, so it kind of flops nicely onto the floor. You can get these slip-free rug underlayment. So it really does a good job. I can attest to this, of keeping the carpet from slipping. And that's the other thing that can happen. It's not just tripping, but slipping. And we can use this on a variety of settings and rug types. This is a very flat profile rug. We actually since put corner adhesion to these areas in addition to the non-slip carpeting. So it works great. That's what it looks like there. So to sum up, sometimes we like binary choices. We don't often get them. Good is vinyl, which luxury vinyl tiling or luxury vinyl panel planking is fine. Wood floors, laminate floors, cork, bamboo, thin rubber backed area carpets or loop carpet, no more than 1/2 inch. Those will work okay. And avoid ceramic tile, thick carpeting, thick padding, thick area rug, thick anything, concrete, polished stone, any of those things that can be problematic for you. Again, this may not fit your particular circumstance, but these are my recommendations from here. So again, everything starts at home. Happily, AARP Vermont is doing a great job of helping us think about the home in the context of our neighborhoods, in our community. We may be able to stay in our own home going forward. And maybe that we have to, as I suggested earlier, look elsewhere for a home that may be new and designed better to begin with, or easier to modify. But in any event, aging in community is, I think, where we're going to be ending up. So AARP has a terrific guide to get you started. If you don't have this, I recommend you get it. It's easily downloadable online. I think they'll send you a hard copy if you want to. It's got covers many areas of the home with lots of things to think about. It also has checklists to help kind of prompt you to think about through these various areas of the house. A lot more detail than we've been able to go to today, of course. And there are a lot of resources that AARP has online. Don't worry about jotting these down. They'll be available afterwards. on their websites. We have a ton of information about housing of all kinds, whether it's multifamily, accessory dwellings, new homes, adapting homes, older adults, and all the range of things. Home mod resources, hiring a contractor, choosing a contractor, finding a professional, all on our website. We've got simple infographics that we can share as well. And again, so we covered the importance of home design. We know it makes a big difference the older we get, and it can make a huge difference in being able to maintain you in your home, helping to limit or delay our moves to care settings by years, or maybe completely eliminate it, if not just delay it, and saving us a ton of money down the line. And it can also enhance our ability to maintain our lifestyle if we can make some of these changes that we're talking about. We covered the top 10 list. It's really kind of a top 15 list. A lot of them simple changes, some a little bit more dramatic and costly, but we covered a few of the key areas that we get all the time. And of course, we just mentioned some of the resources. Again, those will be available afterwards if people want to access those via Kelly in her office. So, Kelly, do we have any questions?
Well, first, thank you so much, Richard. That was just fantastic. I loved the range of options that you were able to provide, from do-it-yourself interventions to more expensive interventions. I just really appreciated the detail that you were able to provide to everybody. So no questions. I'm just going to ask if people have any questions. Feel free to hover at the bottom of your screen. You will see reactions, and if you click on that, you can raise your hand. So at the bottom of your screen, you'll see the toolbar. You'll see almost like a little happy face. If you click on that, you'll see raise your hand, and if you can do that, that would be great, and I can call on you to ask any questions. If you are having trouble finding that feature, feel free to put your camera on and just physically raise your hand if you have any questions, or you can go ahead and put something in the chat as well. But I'm going to go ahead. Let's see here. It looks like my computer's just being a little bit slow. Hold on 1 second. All right. Okay. So one of our first questions, Richard, that came in was, should people just follow basic ADA accessibility standards when looking for guidance when they want to make more accommodating features in their home?
Yeah, it's always a question about, well, okay, so what do we do? Where do we get information about what we can do in our house? What's the best thing to do? And the resources we shared are really places to start with that. One place that sometimes if you're hiring a professional, they'll look at particularly is the standards that were developed for accessibility for public buildings or for some kinds of multifamily housing. And those really aren't appropriately applicable, in our opinion, to a residential setting for the most part. What we talk about when we teach professionals about this is to use some of those national standards as reference points, because some of the things we talked about here do kind of match up like handrails on stairs. They match up well with what the national standards are offering, but really you don't want to have your house configured like a public restroom. You want to have it customized to your particular needs. And so knowing about the accessibility standards is good. Having knowledge that allows you to customize it to somebody's particular needs is even better. So avoid those as anything other than a reference. And again, the stuff that we have and AARP has online is a great place to start to figure out what the best kinds of solutions are.
Great, thank you. And so going a little bit deeper on the cost of all of this. So as I shared, it was great that you were able to showcase some DIY pieces to more elaborate home modifications. But if you could just share a little bit about the overall cost, and then what types of funding perhaps is available for people if they need help.
Sure. So the bad news is that age-friendly remodeling is no less expensive than all remodeling. And if people have remodeled their homes in the recent past, you know how expensive that can be. It's why we love helping people build new homes that are better to begin with, so they can avoid those expensive costs later on. So that's the bad news. It's not going to be any less expensive. And if you're doing something like a whole bathroom remodel, that could be many tens of thousands of dollars if you have to expand the size of your bathroom, go into an adjacent room, move your plumbing around, and so on. That can really run up into very expensive kind of costs. Happily, it's not that different compared to standard remodeling, right? So if you add a curbless shower, which we really like instead of tubs, those can be a little bit more expensive, but it's not like a price point buster in most cases. And in kitchens, if you're doing an age-friendly kitchen, likewise, kitchens are very complicated spaces with lots of stuff that's going on, lots of expensive cabinetry. And those are very expensive things to be tackling. I mean, people can spend $100,000 on that kitchen remodel, $50,000 easily. And happily, the things that you saw and the other things we might recommend, they don't have much more. I mean, you can spend more on a front control stove, which we hadn't mentioned in some cases. The added lighting isn't much more expensive. Pantry style cabinets might be a little bit more expensive than just standard door bases and standard wall cabinets. But we don't think that if you add them together, they amount to that much. One thing I will note is that probably the single most expensive line item, if you make things age-friendly, whether in new construction or remodeling, and can be the product selection. And you don't always have to get the higher priced model. You can get a lower priced models that'll work just as well. So keep that in mind. It's not the basic stuff that costs so much. It's what you may choose in these expensive appliances and expensive options in the bathroom. In terms of funding, there is funding available in Vermont, I'm sure, that comes from the federal government, from state government, and from maybe local nonprofits. The challenge is that most of it is tied to income levels. And so the further down the income wealth status ladder you are, the more you might be eligible for some of those funding sources. And they tend to be very restricted, to just things like ramps on houses, or maybe a remodeled bathroom with some low cost things in there. They could be, maybe some of them might put in curbless showers, for example, taking your tub out and doing that. And usually not much more than that. The challenge, of course, is that there may not be that many of those programs around Vermont. A lot of them run out of money halfway through the calendar year because they're so oversubscribed, and they can't have long waiting lists. So that's the challenge. We do have a funding guide, and I'm going to make a note actually to we'll get something like that to you, Kelly. We'll talk to you about that later, that you might be able to make available to people that might be specific to some of the locales in Vermont.
That would be excellent. Thank you, Richard. And I also put in the chat for folks, the Vermont Council on Independent Living, VCIL, their monthly, they do have some small grants available for people based upon income eligibility for bathroom and entrance renovations. But as Richard shared, we need to be able to get more funding available for people who need it to be able to make those changes to make their home safer. We have a very old housing stock in Vermont. The average house has been built for an able-bodied 35-year-old. So it does make it challenging when we want to make some of these changes. One of the questions, Richard, that came up was the roll-in showers. So making those roll-in showers, what happens to all the water? Does it spill out in the bathroom? Does it make, some slip hazards afterwards? So if you could share a little bit more about that, that would be great.
Yeah, well, we've come a long way with curbless showers in the past 40 years since I've been in the business, and we're at a pretty good place now in terms of what's available at different price points, whether it's acrylic, fiberglass units that can be useful for remodels, as well as custom tile versions. And so you can be confident, I think, that save a huge catastrophe in your bathroom, that none of these showers are going to be leaking out. It is sometimes a question that we get, that they don't want to have. It's not like a tub, right? You don't have 50-gallon capacity in that curbless shower. But whether you have a single drain in the middle of your shower, whether you have a linear drain. A lot of people feel comfortable with a linear drain, let's say located at the front edge of the shower. So they're comfortable that all the water that comes out is not going to be going over that into the bathroom. Those are options that weren't necessarily all available back in the day. That they do a good job of keeping the water in the shower area and not letting it leak out. You still need to have that secure mat right outside the curbless shower. And really, we're being literal. We don't want to have showers with any curbs at all. We don't even want showers with thresholds if you can get away with it. A lot of showers may have a small threshold, but a trip hazard is a trip hazard. If you have to climb over a 6-inch curb, well, I guess it's better than a tub, but also you're just introducing the possibility of something bad happening. So if you're doing a bathroom remodel, you're going to be replacing your bathing fixture anyway. Go all the way to a curbless shower and be able to use it for a lot longer, a lot more safely. Maybe one that looks like the images I showed.
Great, thank you. One other bathroom question, and then we're going to move on to our last question on stairs. But could you just share, one person had noted that they don't really like grab bars. And so what are some of the alternatives in the bathroom?
Right. So I refer you to, I think it's item 6 on our list there, because just to reiterate, so all of us, I mean, in my dream, all of our bathrooms would have grab bars everywhere because everybody needs them. We're always doing things in bathrooms that are slip prone and can be a problem. But a lot of us just don't like the look of grab bars. So we have these nice looking bars that I've showed you. You can Google them and visit, I think, many of the home centers, and they'll probably have a selection for you. They can match your accessory design, whether it's gold or chrome or whatever else it is, but they need to be precisely placed. If you're going to be relying on something really strong and straight like a grab bar, don't just throw it in. Don't just put it where the studs are. Mount it where it needs to be for your particular needs. And again, you can have a professional like an OT or PT that if you can get them, they may be able to give you that specific advice. Sometimes you get remodelers that are very experienced in that. But short of that, the thing you can do today or tomorrow is to get these handholds I talked about, which again have various finishes that can match whatever your finish style is in your bathroom, and are also securely mounted, but generically placed. So you put the soap dish where you'd always put the soap dish. You put the paper towel, the toilet tissue dispenser where you do it, and you put it where the towel bars would ordinarily be. And they'll offer you that secure place where if you're changing your socks or bending over, it's not going to pull away from the wall like all the other items I mentioned that don't have these things. I call them handholds. You can Google them online and find out various manufacturers that make them. I think most of the major bathroom accessories manufacturers make those as well.
Great, excellent. All right, we have time for just one quick last question before we wrap up. Bedrooms located on the 2nd floor, and managing the stairs, is installing a seat lift a worthwhile investment?
Yeah, it can be. What it'll do is most likely extend the safe use of your home for you for maybe months or years longer. There's cheap kinds and there's expensive kinds. If they have to turn corners, it may be closer to $10,000. If you just have a straight run set of stairs, it may be closer to $5,000 or $3,000. But the thing to remind folks of is if you've got the need for a seat lift on a set of stairs that's inside, that should be a kind of a warning, an alert to you that you have things you probably need to attend to in the bathroom, things you probably need to attend to getting in the house, maybe in the bedroom, in the kitchen as well. And those might accumulate. I mean, maybe that those all add up. So getting a seat lift may be a good short-term solution, but it may be an alert to you to start thinking a little more broadly and comprehensively about your housing options. What's it going to add up to, all these little small-scale things in your house? Is there another option that you might be thinking about elsewhere?
Excellent. Thank you so much, Richard. Well, that brings us at time today, and I want to thank everybody for joining AARP Vermont's webinar on age-friendly home design for homeowners. I hope you got a lot out of this presentation. It has been recorded, and we will be posting this on our YouTube page, and you'll get an email afterwards sharing links to some of the resources that Richard noted. And I just want to thank Richard so much for such a fantastic and informative presentation. I certainly learned a lot, and I hope everybody did as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. We'll talk to you again.
Thanks. Bye-bye.